On November 17, 1961, a young American man disappeared in New Guinea. After investigations, authorities believed he drowned when his boat capsized near Agats town. His body was never found. This wasn't just any man. It was Michael Clark Rockefeller, the son of Nelson Rockefeller, the future Vice President of the United States. Michael was also the great-grandson of John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in history. However, Michael didn't drown. He was eaten by cannibals. When the tribe realized they had killed and consumed such an important person, they kept it a secret for 50 years. Years later, an old recording surfaced that shocked the world. It revealed exactly what happened to Michael Rockefeller on that day. On November 17, 1961, Michael was trying to start his boat's engine with his crew in the ocean. The waves were rough, and water had entered the motor. They were close to the New Guinea shore, but with the motor failing, their boat was drifting farther away. Worse, the boat was filling with water and slowly sinking. Michael's reason for being there was to meet the Asmat tribe, who lived along this coast. He was obsessed with the artwork they created, particularly their bis poles, which is why this story exists today. A bis pole is a single piece of wood carved by the Asmat tribe to resemble stacked human figures. However, the Asmat didn't make these poles for art. They believed the souls of their warriors, killed in battle, were trapped in these poles. These souls would remain trapped until the tribe killed an equal number of enemies to restore balance. For example, if enemies killed 4 of their people, the Asmat had to kill 4 enemies to maintain equilibrium. The Asmat never discarded or gave away their bis poles, as they were integral to their culture and society. Months earlier, Michael had visited the tribe and learned about these poles. During that visit, Michael misunderstood and thought he had struck a deal with the tribe. He gave them goods in exchange for a bis pole, but the tribe never sent one. This time, he was returning to claim it. Michael brought more goods on his boat, hoping to barter further if the tribe didn't agree based on the previous exchange. As his boat was sinking, drifting farther from the New Guinea shore, Michael stood aboard, thinking about the bis pole. 3 others were with Michael on the boat, a French anthropologist named René, and 2 teenage Asmat guides, Simon and Leo. The guides suggested abandoning the boat and swimming half a kilometer to shore, as the boat was drifting too far to make the swim later. René wasn't a strong swimmer, and Michael didn't want to abandon the boat because it carried valuable goods he planned to use for bartering with the tribe. Michael knew the boat was sinking but was reluctant to leave. They decided that Simon and Leo would swim to shore for help. The 2 teenagers began swimming toward the coast. Though Michael came from one of the world's most influential families, he was more interested in tribal cultures than luxury. His father owned a museum, showcasing tribal artwork from around the world, and Michael was obsessed with these artifacts. 7 months earlier, Michael had visited New Guinea with filmmakers from Harvard University and enjoyed the experience. He wanted to collect unique tribal artwork for his father's museum to gain respect for these cultures in the West. The Asmat's bis poles weren't in his father's collection, so he was determined to acquire them at any cost. Michael teamed up with René to collect these artifacts in New Guinea. Hours passed, and Michael and René had no idea if Simon and Leo had reached the shore. No one was visible in the distance to rescue them. As the boat continued sinking, a large wave hit, capsizing it completely. Air trapped in the boat's underside kept it afloat. Michael and René clung to the boat, floating in the water, waiting for help. Michael realized that if help didn't arrive, they'd have to act themselves. By the next morning, they were 10 to 15 kilometers from shore. Michael, an excellent swimmer, told René he would swim for help. Confident he could cover the distance, he instructed René to hold onto the boat and wait. René tried to stop him, but Michael insisted, saying they'd both die if he didn't try. Michael attached a gas can to himself for buoyancy and began swimming toward the shore. 12 hours after Michael left, René was still floating by the boat when a rescue boat arrived. René asked if Michael had sent them, but the captain said Simon and Leo had alerted them, and they had no information about Michael. When René learned they didn't know about Michael, a Rockefeller, he informed the captain, shocking the authorities. The Rockefeller family used their political and financial influence to launch the largest manhunt in South Pacific history, involving thousands of locals, hundreds of ships, helicopters, and spotter planes. Michael's father and twin sister flew to New Guinea to lead the search. Despite searching everywhere, no trace of Michael was found. After 10 fruitless days, the Rockefeller family returned home, though the search continued less intensely for years. In 1964, 3 years after Michael swam toward shore, the Rockefeller family accepted that he had drowned while seeking help. The 10-15-kilometer swim was challenging, but not impossible, as others had completed it and survived. Michael had military training and was an exceptional swimmer. Given that others survived similar swims, it seemed plausible he could have made it. This fueled speculation that he was still alive somewhere in New Guinea. In 1969, 5 years after the family declared him dead, a reporter named Milt Macklin heard from an Australian who claimed to have recently seen Michael in New Guinea's jungles, near where he disappeared. Milt Macklin believed the story and traveled to New Guinea with his film crew to investigate. He searched the area and spoke with locals, but found no trace of Michael. Macklin and his crew recorded footage of the tribes and areas where Michael might have been. Since Michael wasn't found, the footage was set aside. 40 years later, another film crew prepared to search for Michael, due to rumors that he was alive and living with locals. Before going, they uncovered Macklin's unseen footage. In the footage, they noticed something odd. Asmat warriors were heading to fight another tribe, and among them was a bearded white man who looked remarkably like Michael Rockefeller. This sparked rumors that a billionaire's son had abandoned everything to live with the Asmat. However, it could have been any white man, a visitor, missionary, or local resident. In 2012, 50 years after Michael's disappearance, and 4 years after the footage was rediscovered, National Geographic journalist Carl Hoffman, fascinated by the case, decided to visit New Guinea to solve it. Hoffman and his interpreter lived with the Asmat tribe, earning their trust over months. The tribe shared a never-before-heard story about what really happened to Michael. The tribe warned Hoffman that revealing the truth could lead to their village's destruction and his own death. Ignoring the warning, Hoffman listened to their story and returned from New Guinea. Hoffman wrote a book, Savage Harvest, detailing what happened. On the morning of November 19, 1961, about 24 hours after Michael began his 10-15-kilometer swim for help, 3 Asmat tribesmen, Quinn, Ajim, and Pep, were with 50 others in wooden canoes along the shore. They weren't going anywhere, just stationed there. Ajim noticed a white object approaching, dragging toward them. Thinking it might be a crocodile or snake, the tribesmen paddled toward it, some holding spears ready to attack. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was a white man. Seeing he wasn't a threat, they lowered their spears. The man, Michael Rockefeller, couldn't believe he had swum 10 miles and reached the very tribe he wanted to meet. Relieved, Michael grabbed their wooden canoe to climb aboard. Pep looked down at him, then at Ajim and Quinn. They exchanged glances, nodded, as if planning something. Pep helped Michael onto the canoe. Exhausted from the swim, Michael lay down in the canoe. The tribe turned the boat and began paddling up the river, chanting strange slogans. Michael, who had studied Asmat culture, thought he knew a lot about them, but had never heard these chants. When he asked what they meant, the tribe ignored him and continued paddling and chanting. Michael assumed they were taking him to safety. Suddenly, the chants stopped, and the canoes turned toward a small cleared area of land. Michael looked up, expecting to see a village. There was no village, just a clear patch of land. Michael thought they'd soon reach the village where he could find someone to contact authorities about rescuing Renee, Simon, and Leo. He asked a tribesman for help, but a language barrier prevented communication. Then one tribesman started laughing at Michael, and soon the entire tribe joined in. Confused, Michael sensed something was wrong. Before he could react, the tribe fell silent and began disembarking. Instead of following, Michael stayed in the canoe, as if trying to distance himself. The tribesmen who laughed at Michael stood over him, chanting and smiling. He raised his spear and stabbed Michael in the right side. Other tribesmen began blowing horns. Michael screamed in pain but was too weak to defend himself. The tribesman raised his spear again and stabbed Michael's left side. Michael rolled off the boat in agony, unable to escape. 2 tribesmen grabbed Michael by the shoulders and dragged him toward the cleared area. The tribe continued chanting and blowing horns. They forced Michael to his knees in the center of the clearing. One tribesman grabbed his hair, tilting his head to expose his neck. Another approached from behind and struck Michael's neck with an axe. The Asmat knew who Michael was. They remembered his earlier visit when he tried to take their bis poles, which angered them. They resented a wealthy white man wanting their sacred artifacts for a museum. That's why they never sent the bis pole. When Michael miraculously appeared in their river, the 3 elders, Finn, Pep, and Ajim, nodded to each other, deciding to kill him as part of a ritual to avenge their warriors' souls trapped in the bis poles. The tribe believed white men had killed many of their warriors in the past. Killing Michael was their way of taking revenge. The chants and horns Michael heard were part of their ritual for killing. They didn't just kill Michael. After the tribesman struck his neck, another grabbed his hair, slit his throat with a knife, and severed his head. They then cut his body into pieces. They removed his organs and bones, cooked his flesh over a fire, and ate it. His brain was considered important and reserved for the elders, Finn, Ajim, and Pep. Leftover flesh was stored in pouches for later. Finn took Michael's skull back to the village, covered it with banana leaves, and painted it as a trophy. Days later, a search party arrived, but the Asmat knew they couldn't reveal what happened, fearing retaliation from Westerners. They kept the secret for decades. Hoffman documented this in his book, but authorities in the Rockefeller family stuck to the official story that Michael drowned while swimming for help. What do you think happened? Did Michael Rockefeller drown, live with the tribe as suggested by the footage, or was he killed and eaten by the Asmat? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you like this story, please like it so others can learn about it. The Asmat tribe interacted with outsiders, but there's another tribe that remains completely isolated from the world. This tribe, one of the last uncontacted groups, avoids all contact and drives away or kills outsiders. They haven't even discovered fire, and their island is off limits. Stay tuned for more stories and take care until then.